Yeah, good.
Got
Okay. Thank you so much for joining me here today.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna start with asking you stuff about what made you want to open your own practice.
Okay. So I, I've been working in this field since 1981,
Okay.
with a long time, but I always knew from college on that's what I wanted to do. So I worked for the state for a while, and then I worked for Northside Hospital. And then I was approached by some folks in Woodstock in the late 80s that were expanding a pretty big private practice opening in 1990. And
Yeah.
I had a child and I was making a terrible long commute, and hospital administration was tough at that point. So um, I joined initially Cherokee Counseling, which is still in Woodstock. And then after 10 years there, I wanted to go into more of a alcohol and drug direction, and they were not comfortable having alcoholics and drug addicts in big numbers in the office.
Hmm.
Maybe, yeah, I think that's a fair statement. So we parted ways, and so I came up to Canton, started my own practice, price counseling in 2000,
Okay.
and have done fine ever since. I will say 2001, after September 11th, so all of 2002 was terrible. It was like the country, nobody wanted to make loans or go to count. They were scared to death. And that year, I certainly didn't think about going under, but it was a struggle. I realized I was working harder for less money, but
Yeah.
then it evened out. So
I could definitely see how that would have been a stressful time to even start something like that.
yes,
So you said you've had this since 2000, right? Your current
yes,
practice?
yep.
Okay. How many people do you currently have working under you?
Okay. Emma, Christy, Christina. Yeah, I'm counting on my fingers. Sarah, Ann, Juan. I think that's right. So 6 therapists and me, and then a secretary, and yeah, that's it. And
Okay.
one of the therapists is Spanish speaking.
Okay. So you got a good
Yeah.
diversity. So I do ask on that question, what is the diversity like with the people that you come in contact with daily? Is it primarily a certain race or gender or anything?
No, we sort of specialize in substance abuse. We have a couple of, well, one big contract with the county, which is DUI court.
Yeah.
So that's 85 people. But we have other people as well. A lot of them substance abuse, so they come from probation. But then there's probably 10% that are just regular people that want counseling, and they don't mind if I'm stomping around in the waiting room hollering at somebody, or somebody's there for a drug test, or that doesn't scare them, so they're good.
Oh,
So anything, we don't really do children, but on up to, I've had 70-year-olds, 71. I don't think anybody much older than that.
okay. I saw on your website and everything that you also said that you work with police personnel.
Yes, yes. And before we do that, it's primarily male, because a lot of times it's people who are on probation, and primarily white males.
Yeah.
Just is what it is in this county. It's reflection.
I was about to say,
We have,
especially up there.
yes. And then next highest population is Hispanic males. We almost never have non-English speaking female
Hmm.
participants. But okay, but rarely, less than 1%. And then I forgot where I was going with that. And then black, the lowest. And again, that's a reflection of our county is changing.
Yeah.
So yeah. And a whole bunch of, I mean, it's really kind of crazy that you'll have gosh, we've had a guy from Morocco. I
Wow.
have, yeah, in Cherokee County. I have five people from Africa right now who came over here to have better life and then broke the law, drinking and driving. And so that's kind of crazy. I just wouldn't see that in Cherokee County.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, on to your next question about police officers. So, yes, a little side gig, which doesn't happen very often, which is good. Years and years ago, the sheriff decided he wanted to, when his officers either had to take a life or when their life was threatened, or a really bad crime scene, he wanted to send them for counseling and pay for it. And he liked the way I talked to people and handle people. They had tried other folks, and people can be too therapeutic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he wasn't, cops are not going to go for that. So gosh, that was probably in the late 90s. And then so now and because of, and that sheriff has since retired, we have another sheriff who still sends people in Cherokee County. The Pickens County Sheriff sends people if they are in we call it a critical incident, which
Yeah.
means if they have to discharge their weapon, shoot somebody. City of Canton, City of Woodstock, City of Holly Springs. So as the political climate changes, that will change, and I see that is changing. And thank God we haven't had any horrible issues in a while, because
Yeah.
that's really not how you want to make money. I don't. Yeah, it's just yeah. So there's that side, and sometimes that's done in groups, and sometimes and maybe they'll send the whole shift when something happened, and then we'll sort out if somebody's having trouble. If I sense that in the thing, then they'll come back for another session or two, and the municipality pays for that, and everybody goes on, hopefully happier. But that's a tough. I've seen several people that got out of law enforcement because it was just too hard to be involved, even though their life was on the line to take the life of another human being.
Yeah.
They just couldn't, or feeling like their life was on the line. I mean, I know they train for that, but then in real life, when their bullets whizzing past your head, that's a tough, yeah. So I've seen several good police officers that were like, nope, I'm done.
Yeah. I guess kind of piggybacking off that statement, how do you is there any challenges you kind of face trying to work with people like cops and all like that, or even the drug court people and the DUI court people? I know a lot of them sometimes are more resistant to actually go to counseling. What are the challenges I suppose you face?
Yeah, both. They're so different because they're on opposite ends of the spectrum, but they're really very much alike. They are not choosing to be there. Either a judge is sending, or probation officer is sending the criminals, or the police officer, their boss is sending them. Very few people say, "Hey, let me go see Grace."
Yeah.
So they're really sort of similar. So there's defensiveness, and I just don't. I'm like, hey, I'm following orders just like you, and we got to do this thing. And I tell them the science behind there really is when you have a catastrophic event, you witness it or you're part of it, and you feel like your life's in danger. And if there's been childhood trauma, I feel like it's worse. Um, that changes your brain. It's like somebody conked you on the head. When I started doing this, I went to some training because I thought, well, this is good. I need to be specifically trained if I'm going to do this. And so I sort of went to the mountaintop, some of the key people at the time. And yeah, so I tell them a little bit of science behind it and say, we're not trying to know, but because they'll be afraid somebody's going to try to take their job or take their gun. This is a way to get them out. No, and just talk them through. And most of the time that works really well. A few times, not so much. People have, men, officers have remained angry and but there was probably other stuff going on.
Yeah. So I'm I'm assuming that most of your clientele is mainly the DUI court, is what I would infer.
Yes, huge chunk of our of in my business. Although, like I said, we got some people that I do some marriage counseling, and so. But go ahead with DUI court.
So with the DUI court, I know it's such a big deal, especially in this day and age, dealing with the rise of DUIs and everything, and just drinking and alcoholism in general. Have you found a pattern almost of what the root causes of these people getting into these DUIs and everything might be? I hope that made sense how I worded that.
Yeah, you're fine. Um, well, this our county is really, really tough on DUIs.
Yeah.
Not so with other counties in our state. And I'm not even sure why that is, but it's from judges and prosecutors prior to me, and now that we still have the solicitor is very hard pressed to prosecute DUIs, family violence, and even marijuana charges. And he is very well liked, and so I don't see that changing anytime soon. People fuss about it. I'm like, vote, you know. So I would say 100% of the women that we see that have broken the law, that have been, and DUI court is multiple DUI offenders.
Okay.
So the minimum number would be 2, and the maximum, I mean, we've had people that had 18 DUIs. Now, those are older folks that the numbers don't get that high anymore because there's intervention. But back in the old days, Trinity, they could rack up these things in the 70s and the 80s, pay a fine, be gone. So the women, 100% have had some kind of trauma. I feel comfortable in saying that, either marriage or childhood trauma. Not saying that that's an excuse, but it is. It just is. And more and more of the men have had some kind of trauma. So, but more than that, I just feel like we don't, in our society, we're not parenting like we used to. And teenagers are not, they're like, get a slap on the wrist, or oh, we can't, like parents will come in and say, well, he'll be mad at me if I take the car. And I'm like, you have to have a consequence for this behavior, and they don't do it. It seems so hard. So I feel like those folks are raised never having to be accountable, and then they get in the court system where it's a hard stop. They collide with the judge like that, and guess who wins? The judge.
The judge.
So, yeah. So, I mean, there's always genetics, and the people that we see, if you peel back the layer, they might have 2 DUIs, but there could be a lot of stuff underneath.
Yeah.
Like been to the ER, been in ICU because they, got sick and had pancreatitis and blah, blah, blah. So usually there's a ton of stuff. The legal history doesn't always represent how bad their drinking problem is.
Yeah. So obviously you've been in this field for such a long time. So I don't know how long your other staff has really been in the field. I kind of glanced over all of theirs on the website and everything. How do they face any specific challenges with these clients?
Oh, probably the same stuff. It's not always a perfect fit, so we move people around.
Yeah.
And I have had therapists that they don't want to do this kind of work. They want to have, because in DUI court, you work for the court,
Yeah.
not for the client, and so you can't keep secrets. There's personal information that clients share with us that's not the business of the court, but around using, no, you can't keep secrets. And so I've had a few counselors that were sort of softies, I call them and they don't want to deal with that. And that's fine. That's cool. They're wonderful counselors and they have gone on to do private practice or something else where there's not that
Yeah.
long arm of the law that you have to report. Yeah, if they're using, if they're taking the cat's medicine or taking mushrooms, so you can't, oh, but he's traumatized. No, we have to tell that and there'll be a consequence. That's part of being in this program and being a grown-up. So I
Yeah.
would say that would be the only thing
Okay.
other than just that some people are jerks and
Yeah.
we'll move them to a tougher counselor. And if they really get bad, they come to me, not necessarily like the person, but
Yeah.
but the real bad ones do have to. And then I don't take any crap. I mean, we're not doing that, you
Yeah.
know? So yeah, just the regular stuff. And then the whole therapeutic relationship thing. I believe in this. I've seen it work. I believe in this philosophy, this principle. I've seen it Tuesday night. There was a guy that stayed afterwards and said, "You guys have changed my life." And I was like, "Thank you. I need to hear that today because I was ready to box somebody in the head." Uh, so yeah, I believe in this stuff, and I believe in the accountability part too. Yeah.
Yeah. So how, especially with you working with the court system and the government as strictly as you do, how does that affect confidentiality? How do you decide what is told and everything? How do you deter that in your conversations?
We staff that. If there's a question, we will staff that. But anything around using, really, they don't have confidentiality. They sign over all their rights when they come into the program, and they know that. They might try to play games with that later on, but they know it because they sign papers in the court order. But there are some things, trauma as a child, sexual stuff, just stuff that is
Yeah.
not, yeah. So we make a judgment call. So like the counselor will staff that person with Emma and I, and then we'll make a decision. We usually mention it or talk to our boss, who is the coordinator, and then we come to a consensus if we're going to bring that in front of the whole team, who is primarily male. So that gets into
Yeah.
a whole thing, or like maybe homosexual. We don't need to, you know. So yes, so we staff.
Okay. Is there any certifications that you or any of your staffing needs, especially to work with the court in the way that you do?
Yes. Well, all of our people are licensed, which is exceptional. That's not the case in a lot of programs.
Yeah.
I think the funding sources are sort of getting it and making sure there's at least a licensed person somewhere
Yeah.
on the premises where that wasn't the case before. They might all be recovering people, which is fine, except what if it's 9 months recovery? I mean, you can't have somebody in a court program with more sobriety than the counselor. That
Yeah.
does not, I mean, if they have a problem, I'm not saying that, you
Yeah.
know. Um, so everybody's licensed in their field and they're all master's level people, except for the Hispanic counselor has a doctorate in divinity. So,
Hmm.
but we have been trained in MRT, that is a evidence-based treatment. Um, and it involves a workbook and you have to go through 4-day training to do that
Yeah.
stuff. And then Emma is trained in the LSCMI, which is a screening tool, and the RANT, RANT. So those are two screening tools used for the UI court and some of the other accountability courts, because she does a before they even before we even vote on them or accept them, she does a screening tool to make sure that they fit, that they have an alcohol problem. It's really pretty rare with 2 DUIs that people don't have an alcohol problem, but that may have occurred. Or if they've been, like one example would be a lady who had a DUI, and this especially happened in COVID because the court system got so behind. Maybe she had a DUI and then she got pregnant, so she's sober the whole pregnancy, and now she's breastfeeding for another year. So she's been sober 2 years.
Yeah.
So really, she doesn't fit a criteria of substance use disorder because you got to have had some use in the last 12 months. So Emma's trained on all that stuff. Anybody who's licensed is trained to diagnose. So those two, and then MRT, and then seeking safety, and then all that's another for traumatized people, and that's another workbook. And then each year we all have to have continuing education credits, and we have to prove it every couple of years.
Yeah.
And it's not very much. It's 32 hours, which is not very much for 2 years. But so people will go off on like just interesting stuff, the latest stuff in brain chemistry, some weird couples counseling thing, so
Yeah.
we bring a lot to the table. It's a lot of different, I really like the latest drugs of abuse, because there's stuff in the gas stations that just would blow your mind that is right there, but it's very abusable. And drug addicts know that. They're way ahead of us. Yeah, we're
That's
learning
always
and we're
gonna
trying
be.
to catch up. Yeah. And they're like doing 5 things that I've never heard of. I'm like, what? So yeah.
How do you deal with that barrier when they're abusing things
Oh,
you don't even know about?
um, so we have training every year, and we have some pretty good training that um there's a cop out of Oklahoma, I think it is, who does, that's his specific thing that he likes to do. And he's really a dynamic speaker. So I always try to go to his stuff whenever we have a national training. And he brings up stuff that you just can't even imagine, that's tucked in between the CBD. I mean, it's not going to be with the hairspray. It's in the glass cases, but it's a knockoff of speed or pain pills or whatever. So we have training, and then interestingly enough, those drugs may not show up as the drug that they're imitating on a drug screen, but we've had them pop like for methadone, something off the wall, which then gets our attention. Like, what? And the person, of course, it's like, oh, I've never done that. Yeah, but you're doing 7 other things, goober. So, and because that's none of that's licensed, and the FDA approved, all that you really don't know what's in
Yeah.
it. And so yeah. So between rigorous drug testing and training, and then watching our people, because they don't use that stuff and make all their obligations, something else slips.
Yeah.
They start being late, they miss their appointments, they forget court, and then it's the whole picture. And
Yeah.
then we sort of put them under a microscope, and they get it together, or they don't, or they go to jail. And that's
Which,
part of being a grown up.
yeah, I know, especially in the change process, relapses are normal and everything, but how many of your participants would you say actually become sober?
Oh gosh, a pretty good percentage.
Okay.
I know our recidivism rate is 8%, which is incredibly low, but there's some magic to that. It's like her numbers count no more DUIs in a 5-year period.
Okay.
So, but of the people who are sober during the program, 99.5%, because they really get, if they mess up 4 times, 4 positive tests, definitely 5, they're out. We just feel like, yeah, that something more restrictive, they need inpatient, but then they have a court sentence they got to deal with. So they'll go sit in jail for a while. And depending on their attitude, if they produce an alternative inpatient plan, that sometimes works. I can think of a young lady that I feel like that saved her life. We could not, it was just her being out in the community, and there was an ex-boyfriend involved, and so we revoked her and put her mom came up with another alternative in South Georgia, and it's been marvelous, where she was on site for like a year and a half. Okay. Okay. So that's cool, you know.
Yeah.
But so I would say the percent now, how many stay sober forever? Oh, no, because they're not honest. But we've tried to do follow-up questionnaires and stuff, interviews. They're not honest
Yeah.
about, and they get all paranoid and why are you asking, bro? Like, okay. Um, so oh, I don't even know. I could throw out like 20%,
Okay.
but some of them I do see on Facebook. There's a couple that met in DUI court, which we thoroughly discouraged that, but they've made it work. And he's running a recovery place in town now, and she's a helper. She is she's in the medical field, and they have done incredibly well. So, and usually that's a clue, is when they defriend me on Facebook, I know they're using again. When, as long, you know, if we're friends, and it's pretty cool. But if I go, oh, I haven't seen their post for a while, I'm like,
Telltale sign.
that's, yeah.
Do you, especially since you had to work so strictly with the court system and all, do you feel like when these people fail out of y'all's program in DUI court, do you feel that the prison or the jail system helps them at all?
No, no, but
Like,
it helps the rest of the people, you know, our goal is public safety. And a lot of people don't get that. And
yeah,
that's like what I was telling you about the therapists that just can't, they just didn't want to work because they wanted the goal to be totally about the person. Well, that's a close second, but no, public, because DUI offenders,
yeah,
whew, you know, they can. And I try to say, when somebody was talking to me Wednesday, and I said, okay, nobody was hurt. We can deal with this, you know. So I try to be positive, as long as nobody, but because in some cases we have had people, maybe more than 5, less than 10
yeah.
over the 20 years, that have killed people.
Oh.
And they had all been to prison and gotten out and gotten in more trouble, because
Mhm.
that really didn't do it for them. But so, and then others, now we got people now in the program who have hurt people badly. And so I'll try to be positive and say, okay, we haven't, because everybody says, oh, it's never happened to me. Yeah, but it could. So yeah, that we got to think about
So
public
y'all's
safety.
main ethical guideline that y'all are following is public safety. Okay.
Yeah, I in my heart, that's what it is. I'm not sure that everybody is aware of that every day of the week,
Yeah.
but yeah, yeah.
So especially with the clients that y'all treat and everything, I could only imagine how hard that is mentally and everything, especially to get used to. Do you or any of your staff members really struggle with burnout or motivation?
So, but yes, and we have had therapists that took a break or left and did something else. That's why I exercise. I told you I was going to old people's exercise class this morning. Um, I found that really helps me to go, and you go to the gym, they're like, hey, how are you? And I'm like, I'm grumpy as hell. And they're like, oh my goodness. And I'm like, but by the time I leave, then I feel better. So meetings and staffings, uh, exercise, sort of keeping me in check, has helped me a bunch. And then I had normal life. I had a marriage. I still have a marriage, and kids and family. Now it's grandkids, but they didn't care about what had happened at work. When I hit the door, it was supper, homework, you know, it was their needs that needed to be taken care of. So that helped balance me, I think,
Yeah.
um, also. and other interests, good girlfriends to go do stuff. And
Okay. Um,
because you can't lose yourself in, when I see these fools that are working 60 hours a week, and so I'm like, oh
yeah.
no. Or like the recovering people, like pastors maybe, that one of one of them around here who I knew when he was a drug addict. I didn't know he was a drug addict, but he changed my tires, and then he
Yeah.
was recovering and he became a pastor, and then he opened this halfway house in his home. And I was like, you, what are you crazy? You can't be doing that. And then I was like, oops, that was not my lane. But, and of course it didn't work.
Yeah.
Not in your home. You got to have some level of separation, but some people don't.
Yeah.
And that gets them, I think. You, yeah, you got to have quitting time, and you got to do other stuff and let it all go.
So, how does burnout affect whenever you feel it and everything? How does it affect how you treat clients and everything and just how you live your day-to-day life?
I, I would think that you start not doing as great a job, not wanting to come to work, letting stuff slide. Because even I got into private practice hoping, thinking that nobody would be my boss, but that's never the case. That's a joke, because the IRS is your boss, or the licensure board, or now the judge. And then I have a court administrator who could be my daughter.
Yeah.
And I like to say, this is my boss. She hates that, but I think it's funny. Where was I going? Where? Oh, so you stop. So there's paperwork, there's other stuff. You don't just get to go in and do your thing and then leave. And then when that starts slipping, I think that's a clue.
Yeah.
Reset, a vacation, something.
Okay. So, especially piggybacking off that, how is it hard for your program to stay vibrant and everything and positive with the things that y'all are doing?
Probably, uh, we have so my daughter just walked in. Hey, girl, I'm doing an interview. Okay. So I'm not just sitting in here talking to myself. But that's one reason why everybody's licensed, because we're more professional, and we feed off of each other, and we're sort of silly. I don't know if your relative that talked to you about,
Yeah.
very silly, and that helps keep it rolling. But honestly, Trinity, it is a adventure every day with substance abuse. Oh my God, you open the door and you think, well, this is going to be a boring Wednesday. And then something happens and you're like, dang, woo, that I did not expect that. And I'll tell people, you're why I puffed my hair up and put my makeup on this morning, because I was thinking it was just going to be boring. And you are, you know, why I showed up. I didn't know it, but so I think, yeah, we help take care of each other. I have a really good group of people. I don't micromanage them, and we act silly, and we have lunch, and we, yeah,
Okay.
try to nurture each other.
Do you think environmental changes, especially in the field that you're in, environmental changes and just deciding what best field practices are hard to also come by and kind of adjust to?
Like, what do you mean? I'm not sure what you mean by that.
Like, especially specifically, I'll say with COVID, when everything was virtual and everything, how do you face that kind of challenge in dealing with something like that and adjusting to only being online and having to actually get through to these people?
Okay, got it. Girl, speak. Okay, so that is a time then I was maybe burnt out or
Mhm.
approaching. We were extremely lucky to have a piece of business that continued, because not all DUI courts or drug courts or veterans courts did. Some of them just went poop. Hey, you're on your own. But our boss wanted to keep providing. a actually a more intense level of services, I think, but it was virtual, and that was tough. And yes, some of the other counselors were like, I can't take any more people. I'm full. And I'm like, well, they're still coming in the door. I mean, not literally, but um, so I made a point to get up every day and get dressed and go to the office most days, even though it was virtual, because I need a schedule.
Yeah.
And some people didn't get out of sweat clothes and didn't do makeup. Nope, that's not good for me. So, but that was a tough, oh my gosh. And we were charting new territory. And yeah, I sat on the edge of my couch looking out the same window a- for a whole year, maybe a year and a half.
I could
Thinking,
I could only imagine.
and the secretaries wanted to be laid off because they made more money being laid off. So I really didn't have um, the paperwork structure
Yeah.
until some of that money ran out, and we started saying, hey, we need to come back to life here. But
Yeah.
that was a tough time because we had no idea. We have we didn't know. The whole world didn't know. But I can remember sitting in that last court session going, what are we gonna do? Sitting far away from each other, and then people would get sick and people would infect everybody at the lab. And
Yeah.
so then they would like not be drug tested, but they didn't want to tell people that. So they, there was a cover of, oh no, no, everything's fine, when the lab was shut down because they were all sick. And in the beginning, it was like 2 weeks.
Oh God.
Now it's not that long, but you had to quarantine for, oh,
So
so
long.
yeah.
And especially, do you feel like it affected the accuracy or like how much you were actually helping these people?
I do think so. Because when we went back, especially in person and group, they resisted that because we were doing Zoom groups, which is so convenient. But they
Yeah.
sort of resisted, but you connect so much better in person. You
Yeah.
see people's faces, they interact, it was like I would look at it, looked like my screen looked like the Hollywood squares, there'd be all these faces. And never did everybody get to share. I mean, you made an effort, but so definitely back in person, yes. It's
Okay.
just better. It's just human connection. I can see if they're shaking, if they're coming off of drugs. I can see if they're angry or they react to somebody else angrily. Yeah.
Give me
So
1 second. Let me grab my
sure.
charger. My computer's definitely about to die. I thought it was charged. And I hope I didn't seem distracted you for a second. I didn't realize I had to pay for Zoom after a certain amount of minutes, and it was scaring me because it was like you got 3 minutes till we kick you out, and I was like, oh no.
It just sent me a thing saying you had upgraded.
That's
Yeah.
also I need to upgrade right now before it just quits this meeting.
That's so now in the old days we would go to the jail, and
Yeah,
maybe now we can't, but definitely during COVID, and they still wanted some jail visits, so we did that. And yeah, that thing, it cuts you off. They don't give a shit. You paid for this amount of minutes, and that it goes
yeah.
dark. Then you could
They're
be
like,
like,
ah.
yeah,
That's why I was scared. I was like, hold on, I didn't know this was a thing.
oh, we just redo it. It's fine. I've
Okay.
had grandbabies. I'm used to stuff being spilled, and there's a sticky, and the maids came the other day, but there's a sticky place right here on the dining room floor. And I was like, somebody missed that.
Definitely missed that.
Yeah. Drink spilled, boogers everywhere. Just, yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out the best way I could word this, but what in your in your program, do you see as something that you might want to change or like a change goal that you have for your program? If you have one.
Okay, one thing would be we need to involve families more. We
Okay.
did that some before COVID, but I feel like we could do a little bit better job.
Yeah.
Um, I, I, that would be the only, I think we have a pretty good machine here.
Yeah. And do you feel like it's hard to include family in that kind of process? Or do you find most families to help?
Some, it's either black or white. Some are chomping at the bit to come, and others, no, they don't want to. They're sick of being drugged into this mess and
Yeah.
blah, blah. But the bottom line is, if you say this is what you have to do, you'll get a little bit of pushback, and then they find somebody who comes. They
Yeah.
will, a girlfriend, a somebody, an uncle, a roommate, and it's never bad. We're also prepared for that. It's just a sort of an educational, hey, because a lot of them are codependent or they enable like crazy.
Yeah.
Pay the bills, get them out of jail, blah blah blah. Try to be like, don't do that anymore.
Yeah. And I could see it firsthand how that affects people and everything and how that changes stuff. So I guess my next few questions are going to kind of be more on a broader aspect of just human services in general.
Okay.
What do you think are some really big challenges or some key issues that are affecting human services today? I know we've gotten more, it's more normal to go seek therapy and all now than I feel like ever, but I still feel like we face a lot of challenges.
Hmm.
What would you say they are?
Well, money,
Yeah,
because the more money, not the more money you can pay, but if you have no money, your resources are very limited.
yeah,
If you have more and more therapists don't want to deal with insurance because that's a pain, and it is a terrible pain in the rear end. So even if you have pretty good insurance or real good insurance, what is good insurance anymore? I don't even know if that exists.
not
Because
that
they're
great.
always threatening. And mental health is like a redheaded stepchild of,
Yeah,
they don't want to, yeah, they might do great on cardiac stuff, but mental health. Um, but we have come a long way. Oh my gosh, girls, when I started in 81, it was like people weren't even sure if I said, well, I do therapy. They weren't even sure if that meant like for a broken leg and you really had to be crazy to come
yeah,
to, so we've come light years from that, but still there's a stigma attached. We're getting better. There's still a stigma, and all of these freaking active shooter situations or any of that gets all the press. And if they've ever had a diagnosis or then I feel like that pushes us backwards.
yeah,
Um, and then finances. Rosalind Carter, that just passed away, when they were in office, she made sure every county in the state of Georgia had a mental health center. Now, and that was in the 70s, and it may not have been a great mental health center, but by golly, there was an office with people that came to it, and every county. And so and with budget cuts and stuff, that's gone.
yeah,
Yeah. In South Georgia, no services yeah, like we got around Atlanta. But um uh I've I feel like we don't, I'll go back to this. We are not accountable as a society. Nobody wants to be punished. We get away with stuff, whether it's eating too much or smoking cigarettes, and then there's a consequence. It's like, what? People want to be victims. And I think that has to change somehow. And that is part of mental health's issue to change it.
yeah,
Um, this violent activity, which is I think in this country it's mostly white, young white males.
Yeah.
There's something there we got to, pay attention to. We're missing, I think we're getting better, but about zooming in. And there was a case right before Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. There, we had a situation in Cherokee County that it was two kids and they were making bombs in one of them's garage. And the stepdad, somebody saw something and said something, and they stopped that. And it was crazy because the officers involved got an award for that. And then the next day, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, the night after that award ceremony, I was like, oh, that could have been us.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and like the Asian spa shooter thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if yeah, I mean, that was a homegrown boy
Yeah.
here, a local. So as much as we want to go, oh, people are moving in from Atlanta, he wasn't.
It's
So
more than just outside the city, most definitely. And there's obviously a deeper rooted cause. Do you feel like the causes differ from the city in the South?
um
Like the issues as to why these people are reacting the way they are almost? The reasoning's almost different?
oh, I'm gonna get myself in trouble here, Kennedy. So,
Don't do that.
okay, don't. But with young black males, I feel like there's this whole push to be rich really fast, and to do that you got to do whatever it takes, and you want to spend wear that money, show there is no idea of you got to work at the factory for 50 years, and no, it's got to be done quick. And
Yeah.
so with that, I feel like they get disenchanted, miseducated, something about that allure of the streets in the fast way. Even with athletes, we were talking about this the other night. Any not African American needs a coach. And my son was saying, well, the NFL, they have coaches to try to tell them, be careful about who you become involved with personally, like your posse of people that you have carry around with you, or the women, because
Yeah.
ladies will get hooked up with you and then get pregnant, and then boom, and then drugs and blah blah blah. You just gotta. And he said there are coaches. How you spend your money, but we need more of that, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe a change of what is taught in high school, maybe like basic skills like checkbook, paying bills, credit, and not so much, I'm going to say it out loud, but like English literature or French.
Yeah.
I I don't know that that's is usable today.
Well, even like someone that obviously just graduated recently, I can even say the closest we ever got to it was econ. And econ really barely touches into it. It tells you the basics of like taxes and kind of talks about credit, but nowhere close to enough that you could be prepared for life.
Yeah. Yeah. I see these goobers that, I mean, if you can't pay your bills, you don't need to buy a dog that you finance for $5,000. Oh my God. But they make decisions like that.
Yeah.
And then they get pregnant. And you're like, ah. And they expect somebody to get them out of this mess. And
Yeah.
they're angry when that doesn't happen. And it's like, no, pumpkin. No. The dog
So
is yours and the baby's yours. And you may have to work two jobs.
now you stuck with it. You gotta deal with it.
Yeah. They're not going to take a dog back.
They're not refunding you for that dog.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And then the family structure's changed.
yeah.
There's a lot of houses don't have both parents. Um, Maybe even if they do, the parents aren't healthy, maybe mental health issue, and that is just a mess. It's hard to keep, And unless there's a strong grandmother or an auntie or somebody that lays down the law.
Yeah. Especially with changes like that and how kids are raised, especially, and like how dependent we are on technology, the rise of violence and all that we face nowadays. How well do you think human services as an organization adapts to the dynamic environment?
I think we're behind the curve. We come behind. Yes, like just same thing with drugs, but like with technology, we are now seeing the issues.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody's published them in a study, so people are paying attention to them, and we're like, "Oh crap, we gotta do something." But yeah, I don't think kids need data in school. If you got to have a phone, and that's just me, but if you need a phone to call your mama, in the old days, you went to the nurse's office and stood in line. But but and then all the crap that goes on Facebook and social media and oh no, I don't. But parents are afraid to say no to that
Yeah.
stuff. So really, that we could take away electronics, or we could, but it really goes back to the family structure and
Yeah.
what the parents are willing to. Because I've run into little kids that got on an iPad that's nobody in the house thought worked, and they're looking at porn, and they're like 7. I'm like, where were y'all? Smoking weed is where they were. Trinity. The parents were, they go to work and they come home and they smoke some weed and they weren't paying any attention. And now this little girl has zoomed into the future. She's seen stuff she didn't. I mean, how does that affect your first kiss and your first date? And
Do
yeah,
you
home.
feel like it desensitized us to a point?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
The violent games and the sexual stuff and we were working out this morning and there was some song on that usually he'll put old rock and roll for me, but there were other people because it's the holidays. There were some younger people, and I was just thinking, oh, the words here. Ooh,
Because
but yeah,
especially like I'll probably cut this out, but my brother, I don't know if you heard about it, had passed away on a motorcycle
oh
accident.
yes, girl.
And
Yes.
like it's crazy because of how much technology has been based and how much I was exposed to at a young age. It's almost desensitizing once you get to that point. Do you feel like that helps in a psychiatrist kind of way to be desensitized, or do you feel like you still need that sensitivity? If that makes sense. I don't know if that question makes sense, but
I feel like we need the sensitive. I don't think that's a good road to go down,
yeah.
to see so much of that violence and hate and whatever. So as we're talking, I think hostages are being released in Israel. I've been consumed with this since October 7th.
I have to.
Oh, and I think when I came in here to get on the computer, they were cheering with something, but I'll go back to CNN because they report the same thing over and over and over. Uh,
Million times.
but we get desensitized. I mean, it's been 49 days and we're like, oh, okay. You know,
Which is
because,
crazy.
yeah.
Especially like I'm going in the military after I graduate. And
Are you?
yes.
Wow.
So seeing stuff like that, and especially in the military, which is where I kind of want to specialize in psychology it's crazy to see how desensitized you get and how that affects us as a community.
Yep. Just like, oh, yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right.
Wow. Well, you're gonna have an interesting, that will be very interesting,
Yeah.
girlfriend.
Uh,
So good for you.
thank you. Okay, I got a couple more I have to actually ask. I
Okay.
do want to talk to you after I stop recording because I wanted to meet you so badly. But the next question is, what made you want to pick human services? What made you be like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life?
My family was screwed up, very dysfunctional in the 60s. and 70s. My parents divorced in 1960. My dad married a witch, not a real witch, but she had no interest in us.
Yeah.
And then my mother was pretty crazy. And so there were issues, and my brother and we are just lucky that we're not on the street somewhere. But I will tell him occasionally, we could have been crackheads. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, because it was, yeah, a lot of broken up stuff, and then not a lot of supervision later on. And so from really college, when I got into college, I sort of knew. And even girlfriends would come to my dorm room and we'd talk about their guy problems or something. So it was beginning then.
Yeah.
And then I figured out that because I was poor, the quickest way to be able to get into counseling was get a master's degree in the state of Georgia. You can get licensed. Nope, we didn't even have licensure then, but you could do counseling in 81
Yeah.
or in the 70s. So I got my master's degree in social work from University of Georgia, and then we got licensure in 1987, which was a big deal.
Yeah.
So yeah, for my own screwed up stuff.
I mean, fair enough. I feel like it also helps you sympathize with different backgrounds.
Mhm,
That helps you seem more personable, I suppose, with these,
mhm,
especially in the field that you're in.
mhm. And I put my crap out there. I tell them, hey, and and years ago I did drugs, and they're like, were you wild? I said, I thought I was wild. You people take it to a whole nother level. I mean, we had limits. We like did not take our pets medicine. We, you know, we had boundaries back then.
Another
But
ball game now.
yeah, it was a different ball game. It is no, nothing's off limits now. So uh yeah. So when they think they're gonna, oh, you don't understand. Actually I do. So
Yeah.
you gotta decide what you want out of life. You want to keep playing this game with the court system? Great, because they'll keep taking your money. Or you want to stop and have anything you want, basically. The sky's the limit.
Um, especially for, I'm trying to figure out how I want to word this. Especially for you personally, even either when you kind of started with your own practice in D&D DUI court or now, what do you think was the biggest challenge of being an administrator in a staffing kind of way and just working at the same time? Is it a lot sometimes?
Oh, it's too much. Yeah. And I've let stuff slide administratively because I was trying to do both hats.
Yeah.
Uh, so now my daughter works with me, and she really likes the administrative stuff, and she is great at it. So she does some counseling and she'll do some administrative, and she keeps us on our toes, and she's not stealing from me, and she's not sitting back in the back room drinking coffee,
Yeah.
shopping on Amazon while she's on my dime, which more and more that's how people,
Or
and then tell you how hard they work that day. It's like,
nowadays.
ugh. So definitely I should have had like a somebody to help me do the administrative part, because I should have confronted some stuff. I should have paid more attention to some stuff. Nothing catastrophic, but like for a long time, I didn't have workman's comp on my people. I don't know. Nobody told me. And then they were like, "Oh my God, Grace, you have to have that. That's the law." I'm like, "Where?" So I got it, but there wasn't a course on,
Yeah.
you know,
On how to
yeah,
run it.
yeah. I had insurance on the building. I had insurance on the malpractice, but
Had your
I
licenses.
thought workman's comp was, I mean, they'll get a paper cut. What can happen? You know? And so my tax ladies were like, make a call today, write a check today. Okay. So yeah, there was some stuff that slid. Yeah.
So I try to search for this question online, and I really, especially in this field, I feel like it's so hard to find a entry level salary. either for your administration part or just being a psychiatrist in general when you were working under somebody else? Because it's obviously different in every county and based on certifications it's different. What was your entry level salary for both, if you asking?
Girl. Okay. When I went to work in 1981, I was making $12,060 a year.
Was that good?
Oh, no, it was not good, even in 81. Whew. So I taught DUI school to make extra money, and I did on-call work on some weekends to make extra money because that was not, but I worked for the state and it was mental health. And yeah, so times have changed a bunch. When I went to Northside, I jumped to about 50,000 a year, which was huge.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's a big jump.
yeah, but and I worked for the state for 4 years, let's say, and so over that time, it incrementally went up, but nothing big. And
Yeah.
then so to jump, I thought I was in high cotton making 50 grand a year. Um, but that there was a lot expected. That was still in the mid 80s, so there was a lot expected for that. But and then so yeah, that was my, and then private practice, it's what you, how hard you want to work,
Because I'm
how,
sure
you know,
you
want to
have
work.
to put a lot into it as well. So it's, could you give me like a, I guess, a gross estimate of you being an administrator with staffing and having your own practice, what you would assume maybe your gross is?
What? Oh, yeah, ballpark, let's say $300,000 to $400,000 a
Okay.
year.
But it
But that's with
obviously
all the,
long.
that's the income with everybody. So
Okay.
my part, is, I'm not sure. I should know that. My daughter knows that, I'm sure, but and she gives me reports every month, Trinity, and so maybe a 150 by when everything's paid. And oh, but that's not, that's net. So gross would be, well, gross, it's all under my name. So it's 300 grand. And then by the time 350, 400, this has been a really good year. So even a little bit more as we close out this next month. But then I pay out everybody. And being a small business owner, I write off all kind of shit, girl. You get creative because Uncle Sam takes his share. And so then,
You got to
yeah,
find a way to cheat around it.
yeah, yep. I mean, you just, yeah, some stuff I'll say, hey, can we do this? And my lady will go, no. And then sometimes she'll say, hey, I want you to try, do this. And I'm like, okay, if you say it's okay. And I can take pre-tax. I have a SEP IRA, which is yeah. So I take a chunk for my retirement. I just got to do that for my people.
Yeah.
Match a certain amount, whatever they'll put in. And yeah. And some of them don't want to put anything in. I'm like, guys, this is a no-brainer. Like, no, okay,
A lot of kids
sign
don't
the
know that.
paper. What?
A lot of kids don't realize how important that
Yeah,
is.
yeah. I'm gonna match your money. It's a no-brainer. And I
Bring
do
in
that
the
because
future.
yeah, but yeah. So so there's a, but I've been really lucky and I've worked really hard.
Yeah.
So yeah. But there are, with the accountability courts and stuff, those therapists, if it's a good sized court, they make, or the administrators that could be therapists too, they can have a therapeutic background, 80, 120
Okay.
pretty easily in a county like this and like Cobb. Yeah, no problem. And that's, then they get insurance and stuff too. So the doors have opened tremendously. Uh yeah.
Okay. So, what do you feel the rewards and the benefits are for you doing this job?
Oh my God, it's so much fun every day. Some days are not good.
Hmm.
Um and the worst are when there's an administrative thing. The people I understand are going to act ugly or whatever. I sort of, okay, expect that. But if something happens, oh, I'm trying to think of, the fire marshal says, you got to do X number of repairs
Yeah.
or I'm going to shut you down. Because during COVID and even before that, I don't know, the fire marshal was more interested in flirting with the people that I had working there than he was actually paying attention because we thought we were fine. And then this new guy comes and it's like, wow. But then you got to do it,
Yeah.
and it's my space and it's beautiful space. So they obviously know I take care of my stuff, but
Yeah.
yeah. So something like that. But the payoff is, I mean, people, and it's holiday time, so it will happen more often. They'll contact me, they'll come back by, and they'll say thank you for everything you've done. I really appreciate it. I'm still sober, or I've struggled, but I'm doing good now. And that is the kick. That is what it's about.
Yeah. So going off how you said doing administrative work and counseling and all, which is a lot, can you walk me through a day? I know every day is different.
She is, oh, well, I mean, I just squeezed in the administrative stuff whenever I could at lunch, which was
Yeah.
crazy. And if I insisted, we did have staff meetings for a while for COVID, but Emma will do, this is going to be an admin day. She works 5 days a week and she does intakes and stuff on certain days. So she's got her head wrapped around, unless there's some kind of emergency, which happens. People come in and go, my probation officer's going to lock me up if I don't do something today, and that's cash money for us to make.
Yeah.
So if you got an opening, my feeling is slide them in. But generally she'll have like Monday and Wednesday, say, or administration days, and Tuesday, Thursday might be therapy days, and then Friday she goes home early. So she's way better about, yeah, chopping that up. I was like, try to doing that shit at lunch, or maybe carve out a couple of hours
Yeah.
in the last few years to meet with people. And then for a while we did have a weekly staff meeting. And so the secretaries would bring stuff to me that need to be taken care of. And then I'd have to carve out some kind of spot to, yeah.
So what is like your day to day? I'm sure y'all have to deal with the court system and actually show up to court and all that type of stuff. So how does your day to day look on a busy day, I suppose?
Okay. So like on a real busy day, like on a Tuesday,
Mm.
I go in generally at 8 and I'll see people till 1. Then I have lunch, and then uh maybe 1 or 2 hour lunch, and just kind of chill and regroup and like not talk to anybody, just and then I'll on Tuesday nights I do group at 5, 6, 7. So that's a long day. It's usually 12 hours. Although the older I'm getting, it's getting less, like 10 or 8.
Yeah.
Um on every other Thursday, we go to court for all afternoon. We go over to the courthouse at 1. We staff people till 4. We have the first court hearing at 4 and the second one at 5:30, which mercifully is getting over by 7 now. It was later, but we were audited and we won an award, but even the auditor said to the judge, don't spend all the time with each person. You are worn out, they're worn out. And so he listened from another judge. He took that to heart. So, because it was another judge that was auditing him. So, so twice a month we go to court. We are about to start a little piece of business with Veterans Court, but and I think we are going to go to court in person on Mondays, but that's a much smaller. It's not they have 20 people, maybe. They want to do more, but not like 85.
Yeah.
So, and then there's charting. So now I'll schedule time to chart, which is just on the computer, or catch up emails or answer questions. But I really have a secretary who she fields a lot of that. She protects me a
Yeah.
lot. because salespeople try, oh, they will lie and say all kind of stuff. Oh, I'm Grace's friend and blah, blah, blah. And she'll say, do you know this person? Nope. Okay. Ugh.
I'm sure it's got to be so much more of a relief that you have a secretary and your daughter helping you with admin, because I could only imagine before how much you had on your plate.
It was ridiculous. It was way too much. I don't know what I was thinking.
I'm shocked you didn't get burnt out in that phase.
I'm a soldier and I just keep going, just so.
So, especially with everything you know now, if you were to be able to restart again, would you go back into human services?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's my place. Yeah.
Okay. Do you
That's my gift and my, yeah.
do you have any advice for people going into human services?
Hmm. Set boundaries. Don't take it all to heart. The world keeps turning. And you are doing good in the
Yeah.
world, so it's worth it. I've been really lucky that it's been financially good for me, but I've taken some risks, and not everybody is a risk taker. Certainly not therapists are not.
Yeah.
A lot of therapists don't even want to deal with the money part. Well, then who's going to if you're.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're probably not going to get rich, but it is very worthwhile. But you got to set boundaries and take care of yourself, and you're doing good.
Yeah. How did you struggle with that at first? I know you said that some of your DOI court people follow you on Facebook and stuff. Is it hard setting that professional boundary but also trying to be personable to an extent?
Yeah, I don't post I post about the grandkids and that. I don't post a lot of stuff. Um, yes, and they if they try to cross the boundary, like Grace, call me or what, we're not doing that. I unfriend them or yeah,
Yeah.
or yeah, say I no, it is a holiday weekend. I'm not talking to you. I haven't talked to you in 10 years. Why would I? So yeah, that and I maybe shouldn't do that. It's kind of, but it's people. Well, are there current clients? No, it's mostly past.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there might be one military guy that's a current client that I've allowed to be a friend because I felt like he would be okay with,
Yeah.
yeah. But you do have to watch that. And we didn't have that back in the day. That's a whole nother,
Do you
yeah.
think that almost threw like a wrench into human services trying to navigate that?
Yes, it's a whole other set of stuff. Yeah. And then I've got two phones. I got an emergency phone, I got a personal phone. So I try to keep that all separate. And contact people on the emergency phone and not the personal email, not the, yeah.
Okay. Okay. The only last question that I think I have for you is, do you belong specifically to a human service organization outside of like the DUI court and everything? Is there anything that you put yourself into?
Yes, National Association of Social Workers, NASW.
Okay.
And we have an ethics um, promise, I don't know, code. I get my malpractice insurance through them, but they've been around. It's a national agency and they've been
Yeah.
around for a long time. And then I'm also a national part of National Association of Drug Court Professionals, which has to do with DUI court. But those are the only two that and there are tons of them out there and but it's, people say, oh, you're Georgia Associate. No, I have a license. I don't need that. They, I, you know,
Yeah.
I don't want to have all these initials after my name. I don't need all that shit. And I see people that they got a whole tail of stuff, and sometimes it's important and sometimes it doesn't mean squat.
Yeah.
It's like, what the heck are these initials? I've been around for a long time. And so,
Because especially in your field, do you feel like your clients care about that? A whole lot?
Oh,
I was about to
no.
say, because I know they're court, most of them are court mandated. I know you have ones that come to you, but
And even if those people don't care. They don't care what number I was in my class. They don't care no, they don't care. They want the connection and they want some assistance, and that's it.
okay.
Don't do them wrong.
Yeah. Thank you so much. This was so beneficial and everything, and I really enjoyed this.
Good.
Thank you so much for the interview. I'm going to stop recording now.
Okay.